Illegal immigration doesn't serve our communities. Officer Singh, he is the absolute poster child for why immigration works if done legally.
It is Friday, December 28th. A Fox News alert. An urgent manhunt ramping up right now across the sanctuary state of California for the illegal immigrant accused of killing a police officer.
That officer's death fueling President Trump's demands for a border wall.
So as the shutdown hits the 1 week mark, will Congress act? And swipe right on Instagram?
The horizontal trial that horrified users and triggered basically a massive online meltdown. Fox and Friends First continues right now.
No, I don't. I was just admiring your dance moves that you had going on a second ago.
We haven't done a dance party in a while.
We haven't.
The news has been very serious. It's still serious today, but it's the last Friday of the year.
It is Friday. Yes, it is.
And good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Friday morning. I am Todd Pyro in for Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jillian Mealy. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. Let's begin with the Fox News alert. A massive manhunt intensifying for an illegal immigrant accused of killing a California police officer.
Yeah, he was spotted on surveillance video moments before allegedly shooting Newman Police Corporal Ronil Singh during a traffic stop. His department completely devastated.
You have to understand this was not supposed to happen here. My department is hurting. We're struggling through this. We're a family. We're not an agency, we're a family.
Just such a horrific tragedy. President Trump responding to the killing, tweeting, quote, "Time to get tough on border security, build the wall."
The sheriff in Sings County slamming the state's sanctuary city laws in a Fox News exclusive.
Remember that our partners with ICE, they're not in my county sweeping through churches and schools and convenience stores. They're only interested in the fugitives and the criminals. Why are we providing sanctuary for people who victimize and exploit the weak and the defenseless? We should not be doing that.
And take a look at this. This photo was taken just hours before Singh was shot and killed as he celebrated Christmas with his wife and 5-month-old son. The 33-year-old was originally from Fiji and spent 7 years as a cop.
That photo really brings it all.
It does.
All right, President Trump's call for a border wall coming as the government shutdown hits 1 week with still no end in sight. A live look right now at the Capitol where the Senate failed to come up with a solution, albeit during a 4-minute session.
And Doug Lazater joins us live in Washington, where lawmakers won't be back to work until the new year. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning. Yeah, pretty quiet around here, and that is probably not going to change until after the new year. Some Republicans are convinced that this partial government shutdown is not going to end soon.
I can tell you, having discussions with the president prior to the Christmas break, he was fully engaged in making a number of different options available to Democrats, and yet it's been met with really just resistance and no acceptance whatsoever. Any suggestion that this would end quickly are quickly fading.
Democrats promising to move on the partial shutdown as soon as they take control of Congress in less than a week. Likely incoming House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is saying in a statement, with the House majority, Democrats will act swiftly to end the Trump shutdown and will fight for a strategic, robust national security policy, including strong and smart border security and strong support for our service members and veterans. President Trump, meantime, holding firm in a tweet, saying this isn't about the wall. Everybody knows that a wall will work perfectly. In Israel, the wall works 99.9%. This is only about the Dems not letting Donald Trump and the Republicans have a win. They may have the 10 Senate votes, but we have the issue, border security 2020. And the president's Secretary of Homeland Security, meantime, Kirstjen Nielsen, is heading down to the border today. Back to you guys.
Doug Lazater live for us in Washington. Doug, thank you.
Thanks.
And the death of Officer Singh sparking that fierce reaction from the president, urging Congress to fix the border.
But Border State Congressman Andy Biggs says Democrats are risking America's security just to score some political points against the president.
The problem is we have Angel Families. It's an organization of parents and loved ones of people who have been killed by illegal aliens. We have got to stop that. We've got to get it under control. And I hate to sound like I'm politicizing this, because I'm not, because I really have tremendous sympathy for this officer. But we have got to step it up as a Congress of the United States and get this border wall built, because it's the first step at restoring national security on this issue. This is not about border security, I don't believe. I think this is ultimately, they do not want Donald Trump to get a victory. It was a linchpin to the Trump campaign. Republicans ran on this, part of our platform. And you know what? I just don't believe that they think that this is a good thing to do for politics. And I really have a problem with that, because that's placing politics above the safety and security of this country.
President Trump has been calling to fix the crisis at the border since the very day he announced his candidacy for president back in June of 2015.
President Trump defends signing MAGA hats while visiting soldiers for Christmas. The president tweeting, quote, CNN and others within the fake news universe were going wild about my signing MAGA hats for our military in Iraq and Germany. If these brave young people ask me to sign their hat, I will sign. Can you imagine me saying no? We brought or gave no hats, as the fake news first reported. The Air Force backing the president, saying there is no rule against airmen bringing personal items to be signed by the president.
The special counsel will not get any more written answers from President Trump. The president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, telling the Hill, quote, I think I announced about 10 days ago over my dead body, and I'm not dead yet. Adding, quote, President Trump's not answering any more questions from these people. They are outrageous activity. We did enough. However, Giuliani tells the Daily Beast the president is, quote, still open to a face-to-face interview or speaking over the phone about the Russia investigation.
The Federal Reserve Chair opened to meet with President Trump amid friction over interest rate hikes. The Wall Street Journal reporting Jerome Powell has told White House officials he's willing to explain his decisions. The president has blamed Powell for the market instability this month. No word on when the meeting could take place. And the countdown is on to the big countdown in New York City. The New Year's crystal ball unveiled in Times Square as the NYPD launches extra security measures to keep everyone safe.
Steve Rappaport has a look at the final preparations for the final night of 2018.
With the holidays behind us, it's time to look ahead into the new year. On New Year's Eve, approximately 1.2 billion people around the world are watching Times Square and the glittery ball that rings in the new year for the East Coast. Preparations for the festivities got underway Thursday, crews installing 192 new triangles to the crystal face of the ball, adding to the existing 2,500 already circling the sparkly sphere.
This is stunning. It's cut on both sides. It is designed in Waterford, Ireland. It is spectacular.
The new handcrafted pieces featuring rosette cuts designed to give the appearance that they will all flow harmoniously into each other, which highlights this year's theme, the gift of harmony.
After a divisive year, we all come together on New Year's Eve as we count down those final seconds of the year in unison and in celebration with hope for the future.
Times Square revelers and those watching at home will be treated to several performances. The ball will be raised at 6 p.m. on December 31st before it drops at midnight on New Year's Eve.
This is a moment when we look back and reflect on where we've been. It's also a time when we celebrate the people that we love and the things that we value most. And then it's also a moment when we look forward with a sense of hope.
The celebration centerpiece is 12 feet in diameter and weighs roughly 12,000 pounds. Wishing you a happy new year from New York, Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
It's hard to believe New Year's right around the corner. And how about this story? The nation's oldest living veteran and oldest man has died at 112 years old. Richard Overton passing away in Austin, Texas, following a bout of pneumonia.
He credited his long life to God, but also smoking cigars and drinking whiskey.
Done it all my life ever since I was 18 years old. It don't hurt you. You know how to drink it.
Overton volunteered for the Army in 1942 and served with an all-black unit in World War II.
He was honored by President Obama on Veterans Day in 2013.
What a
remarkable life.
Yep.
Time now, 9 minutes after the hour. 3 major cases that could make or break the Trump administration's immigration policies in the new year.
Constitutional law attorney Jenna Ellis is here live to break them down next. Stay right there. Good morning and welcome back. The government shutdown enters day 7 with no solution in sight.
But illegal immigration expected to be front and center again in 2019, with the Supreme Court set to rule on several major cases.
That's right. And here to break down the top 3 immigration cases at the High Court is constitutional law attorney and the director of public policy for the James Dobson Family Institute, Jenna Ellis. Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it. So there's going to be a number of things discussed in 2019, obviously, but let's start with the asylum ban. What do you see happening with that?
Yeah, so all of these cases really come down to the fact that the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and all of these leftist groups are really just trying to target Trump and make sure that he doesn't have any wins on immigration. And so for the asylum ban in particular, this case is constitutional. He has congressional authority to determine a procedural question. So it comes down to the fact that if Congress wants to change their delegation of power to the executive branch, then they need to go through the legislative process and provide common sense immigration reform. And unfortunately, the GOP didn't do that between 2016 and 2018. But if they want to come together and have some kind of bipartisan measure, then they can do that coming in 2019.
So as you read the law, why do you say this is constitutional? Because the Supreme Court sort of came down 5-4 with Justice Roberts being the swing vote that everybody's expecting him to be in 2019 and beyond. Why do you say this is constitutional?
Because it's really talking about not changing the law, it's changing just a procedural aspect that the executive branch, in terms of their enforcement of the law, has constitutional authority because Congress has said to the executive branch that you can determine some things in terms of immigration. And so just like the travel ban case that everybody was talking about in the last couple of years, that was ultimately determined to be constitutional because Congress provided that authority to the president and to the executive branch.
Let's talk about DACA. Do you think something finally gets done on that?
Well, that's a really interesting question as well. And so when we look at from a constitutional perspective, DACA was not constitutional originally because that was changing the law through executive order. And so when President Trump is saying, let's halt this, he absolutely has the power to rescind prior executive orders. And so if we have a 5-4 majority that are actually originalists, then that should come down in favor of Trump as well.
And finally, the census citizenship question, very controversial. How do you think this comes out?
Well, what a lot of people don't know is that this is actually going back to a prior long form that was used in censuses from 1970 all the way to 2000. So this isn't something new. This is just the DOJ trying to reinstate that question once that was actually taken away in 2000. And so the fact that it's been part of the census since 1970, they're just going back to that. That should also be constitutional. It shouldn't be as controversial. This is about free and fair elections, not about a citizenship question.
Do you think any of these come down to Judge Kavanaugh?
I think they come down to Justice Roberts, especially with his Twitter war kind of going on with the president. I think it's really going to depend on him. I think that Justice Kavanaugh has proven himself to be a faithful originalist and that he will side with the Constitution on these cases.
I should have said Justice Kavanaugh.
Certainly fascinating 2019. All eyes on the courts basically all year long. Jen Ellis, thank you so much.
Appreciate it. It is 16 minutes after the hour. Did you get some fancy new tech for Christmas? That present could be gifting others your personal data.
Kurt the Cyber Guy, live. He's much older than that picture, as we've established many times. Yeah. Kurt the Cyber Guy live with how to keep it all secure coming up next.
Good morning to you. We are back with the Fox Business Alert and whiplash on Wall Street. Stock futures are mixed this morning after a wild week of trading.
That's for sure. Tracy Carrasco from our sister network, Fox Business, with what to expect today. Can we even guess what to expect today?
You know, I don't know that we can, because traders, they'll likely be treading lightly on Wall Street. Right now, though, futures are pointing higher. They were mixed earlier, but this comes after the Dow's huge comeback in a late trading gain. It rallied 260 points after facing steep steep losses earlier in the day. The S&P 500 also closing higher, adding 21 points, and the Nasdaq ending on a solid note after rising 25 points. It comes amid a roller coaster week on Wall Street after the Dow tanked more than 650 points on Christmas Eve before surging more than 1,000 points. The jump making the Dow's biggest single-day point gain ever. All three averages breaking records after seeing their largest one-day percentage gains since 2009. Now, the rise could be due to cheap stocks and a slower news week as investors take advantage of the post-Christmas bargains on the trading floor. The record-breaking excitement and futures could make for another interesting day on the trading floor. We will keep a close eye on it as the opening bell set to ring just a few hours.
It really has been a week. Tracy,
Two more trading days in 20.
I listen to a lot of this stuff when I drive home. Experts who know everything, they're like, I don't. It's amazing. It's amazing, Tracy.
Yes.
Thanks.
They sound exactly like that. Thank you.
Exactly like that. If you unwrap some cool gadgets this Christmas, don't forget to set up privacy features for your new electronics.
Joining us now with tips on how to keep your personal data safe is cyber guy Kurt Knutson, joining us from Los Angeles this morning. Thank you for being here, Kurt. Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Let's start with smart TVs. What do we do there?
Good morning. So Jillian and Todd, by the way, who's mean with my photograph, it was photoshopped. It's not that it's 100 years old. All right, so here's the deal. If you got gift wrap on the paper on the floor, whether it's the Christmas morning or whether it's still lingering or whether you get a gift later this year, this is that moment that you want to look at any technology that you're unwrapping and really dial down the data on much of it. So when you talk about smart TVs, during that setup process is the perfect and best time for you to rein in what data they plan to collect on you. Many of these smart TVs now want to collect viewing habits from you, and then they either sell that data or they use it to try to market things to you, or to perhaps, they may say, create a better experience for you later. I like to dial it out. I don't need them to know what I'm watching and when I'm watching it, so I like to turn that off. If you've already set up the TV, it's not too late for any of these things. You can still go back to the settings and change those things, or you might see that message pop up during the time you're using the smart TV over the next few months. Now, let's jump over to these. Alexa, she's going with me everywhere, right? So you've got an Amazon Echo you got for the holidays. Now, it's a love-hate, right? Because they bring so much convenience to us, but at the same time, number one, you got these things hooked up. On every one of these at the top is a button that mutes it. When you have a sensitive conversation about anything in the same room as one of these, you want to just press that mute button, number one. Number two, if any technology you've received over the holidays comes with an app, chances are it also comes with a whole bunch of privacy concerns. Launch that app, especially if it's the Alexa app. Go in there and find out what voice recordings it's taking of you, and you have some control to delete some of that off of your phone. So you can go ahead and remove that from the device on your end so others can't get to it as easily.
Kurt, I got an Apple Watch, and I'm curious about this because yesterday I was setting up the health part of it to be able to, track my heart rate, track how much I'm walking.
That's phenomenal.
But you say that we have to watch out for that, though, right?
Here's the deal. So your health information is very, very personal. Do you want an insurance company in the future to somehow have access to all of your health data that's being monitored from these devices?
No.
Chances are, if you have not dialed back that privacy exactly, you then might be subject to that down the road, because we never read the fine print on all of these devices. And the fact is, we're giving away essentially our data for everything to these companies in order to get these conveniences. So be very, very careful about what's going out there. And then also, you just don't want that device to give your location wherever you go. That's a criminal's love tip for getting to your, they want to know what you got and where you are so they can get to you.
Kurt, quickly on smart toys, 15 seconds.
All right, here's the deal. Kids are supposed to be even more protected with technology. Again, Smart Toy comes with an app. You want to dial into that app as a parent. Really make sure that it's not collecting too much data on any of your kids.
When I was young, toys were made out of wood. I grew up in a log cabin.
Kurt, we love you. Great tips. Thanks for joining us. See you next year.
God bless. Happy New Year.
See you later, Kurt.
And a Fox News alert now. A massive manhunt ramping up for an illegal immigrant accused of killing a police officer. This as migrants are being released by the hundreds onto U.S. soil. But ICE agents are being overwhelmed by the massive influx.
And 2018 bringing a special delivery to a delivery unit. The bustling baby boom that just set a record. Wow, look at that.
A Fox News alert, a massive manhunt intensifying for a prisoner on the run from California's San Quentin State Prison. Officials say Shalom Mendoza walked away from a work crew outside a secured area. Authorities believe he carjacked a woman in a nearby parking lot. Mendoza is serving a 5-year sentence for using a deadly weapon during another attempted carjacking. He's the first to escape the prison in 18 years.
Now to another alert and another massive manhunt. This one for an illegal immigrant accused of killing a California police officer. He was spotted on surveillance video moments before allegedly shooting Newman Police Corporal Ronil Singh during a traffic stop. President Trump calling for tougher border security in the wake of the tragedy, tweeting, quote, "Time to get tough on border security, build the wall." Singh's department says they will do whatever it takes to find that suspect.
He doesn't belong here. He's a criminal. We will find him, we will arrest him, and we will bring him to justice.
Hours before he was shot and killed, Singh celebrated Christmas with his wife and a 5-month-old son. The 33-year-old was originally from Fiji and spent 7 years as a cop.
Take a look at this. An explosion at a power plant lights up the sky in New York City. Officials say an equipment malfunction caused a transformer to blow up. No one was hurt, but as you can see, that eerie blue glow sparked fears, I'm not kidding, of an alien invasion.
It was freaky. It was like Independence Day in the movie, where you just look up and a weird blue color that you haven't seen lighting up the clouds in the sky.
Flights were briefly grounded at LaGuardia Airport due to power outages.
Plots live for us in studio with the wild weather now coming to the East Coast. Hey, Adam.
Hey, guys. Yeah, it's that same system that was jumping all that snow, now working its way to the East Coast. But if you're on the East Coast, don't worry, it's not going to be snow. These temperatures are just far too warm. But this is the system we're talking about, now stretching from areas of the Gulf of Mexico all the way from New Orleans, all the way up the coast, now beginning to see some of that rain in the next couple hours here in New York City. And it's still some of that snow on the backside of this system falling in places like the Dakotas. Watches and warnings to those areas, but this is the very tail end of that system. It's going to continue to in the next couple of hours, so that is winding down if you're still seeing snow in that area. Otherwise, we're going to be watching this entire line of storms move through Atlanta, run up along the East Coast today. At times, it's going to be heavy rain, and there may be some flooding there in the southeast. Otherwise, though, just a generally rainy day. The reason for far too warm here on the East Coast. You're looking at highs today, 56 degrees in New York City, 70 degrees there in Raleigh, and that's where all the system's running into that warm air. It continues for us on Saturday, guys, so tomorrow's high, 51 degrees. It's going to be abnormally warm when the ball drops here on New Year's Eve as well, so we're kind of in a warm stretch here on the East Coast. Yep.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
How about this story? A college quarterback finds his calling, and it's not the NFL. Old Dominion University quarterback Blake LaRussa will skip his senior season to join the seminary.
The Virginia native telling ODUsports.com, quote,
everybody has been pregnant. A Fox News alert now. And police on the hunt for an illegal immigrant accused of killing a police officer. Is this further proof for Democrats that America needs the wall? That debate is next.
And this retiring congressman has high aspirations once he leaves office next month. Why he wants to give marijuana a try, whether his state legalizes it or not. Two MS-13 gang members charged with murdering a Houston teenager. Police say Melvin Josue Salvador and Celso Onelio Sandoval shot and killed a 16-year-old who was walking down the street. The two gang members allegedly committed a robbery after the killing. Investigators say more suspects could be on the run. The GOP is keeping Hispanic American votes under President Trump. A new AP poll shows 32% of Latinos voted for Republicans in November's midterms, most of them veterans and evangelical voters. The survey says the vote stability is frustrating Democrats who believe Latinos should be against the GOP because of President Trump's stance on immigration.
Authorities in California slamming open border policies as they desperately search for an illegal immigrant accused of shooting and killing a police officer.
Illegal immigration doesn't serve our communities, especially criminals who victimize and exploit our communities. Whether you hate the president or love the president, border security goes hand in hand with national security. You can't provide sanctuary for criminals. All that does is silence the voices of our victims, and I certainly didn't sign up to do that.
So the question is this more proof that President Trump is right about border security? Here now to debate that is Republican strategist Ashley Hayek and attorney Richard Roth. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Ashley, I'm going to start with you. What do you think? It's a tough story to listen to about the shooting of that officer.
Well, first of all, my condolences go to the family of Officer Ron Singh. But now more than ever, we see that Americans are going to remember this officer who immigrated here legally to serve and protect Americans. They're not going to remember a shutdown. We've had 20 shutdowns since 1976. They're going to remember that man and his wife. And it's incredibly tragic. And now more than ever, this wall needs to happen. This is politicking at its finest. Tell Officer Singh's wife that her husband's life is not worth 0.1% for that wall. It is $5 billion. It is a small fraction, a small price to pay for the security of Americans. And the fact that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are gambling with Americans' lives is absolutely wrong.
You're taking a look at that picture on your screen right now of Officer Singh just a couple of hours before he was shot and killed. This is on Christmas with his wife and 5-month-old son. I mean, Richard, do you think this is really going to change anything?
I don't think it will. I do agree. It is so tragic, and we do have an immigration problem. But let's not forget, Congress has approved a $1.6 billion expenditure to build a wall. They are starting to build a wall. They're building a wall in Texas. They're building a wall in Arizona. They're building a wall in California. The wall, it's not as if it's black or white. There is a wall being built. The issue is the size of the expenditure. And Congress does not believe that $5 billion is the appropriate amount. We, as lay people, don't get into the intricacies of how much is needed, but they've approved $1.6 billion. And there are other ways. If Donald Trump firmly believes that a wall must be built, there are other ways to get the money. He can get it from other departments. He can get it from other executive branch areas. So there are ways to do it. Congress is not going to allow for $5 billion. They are just not, and that becomes a problem. And if Trump just if it's an ego thing, he's going to come off it. He's just going to have to come off the $5 billion number. It's not whether there's a wall that's going to be built, it's the size that's going to be spent on the wall.
Ashley, we're talking about Officer Singh right now just because this is the latest situation, unfortunately, but there have been multiple people who have died at the hands of illegal immigrants who have entered this country.
There have been. And, you talk about how this is an ego issue for the president, but is this not an ego issue for Democrats who want to hand, house and home over to the illegal criminals who are coming into this country? ICE deported over 250,000 illegal immigrants. The amount of resources that goes to cover those folks. In California, they get free Medicare, free college education. Instead of using the funds for illegal immigrants, why not use some of that funding to secure our border? It's an easy solution. It's a small amount of money in the grand scheme of things, and it's absolutely ridiculous that Democrats continue to prioritize criminals over American citizens, plain and simple.
Well, then if it's that important to the Republicans and Donald Trump, then you can find other monies to do it. It's not as if a wall is not being built.
I don't understand why Chuck Schumer doesn't want to value American lives. Why do Democrats always want to put criminals' lives over the lives of American people?
It's not
hold on a second. Hold on, guys. Let's let Richard finish, and then Ashley, I'll let you respond. Go ahead, Richard.
Thank you, Ashley. It's not that they're putting criminal lives ahead of American people. This is a very tragic event. They are building a wall. The wall will be starting in February. It's going to be in 3 states: Texas, Arizona, and California. The question is the amount of the expenditure, not whether a wall should be built. That's not the issue before Congress. It's how much should be spent. And if you can say that the $5 billion number is what's needed, then I would agree with you. But if it's $5 billion because Donald Trump thinks he needs $5 billion, that's a different issue. And we've seen nothing to substantiate the fact that $5 billion is needed.
In fairness, though, we have heard some Democrats say that the wall will not be built. Ashley, the final word to you, just about 10 seconds.
Correct. Dollars they go towards it. And I went down to the border. I talked to the Border Patrol. The wall is necessary, and it absolutely needs to be done.
Ashley, Richard, thank you both for joining us and for your perspective this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, Bernie Sanders, one of many rumored 2020 candidates for the Democrats. The major hint he just dropped that he's ready to get back in the ring.
But first, let's check in with Pete Hegseth to see what's coming up this morning on Fox and Friends. Good morning, Pete.
Jillian, Todd, good morning, Todd. I want to thank you for my Pyromaniacs
You're
t-shirt
welcome, Hegseth.
that I got in my office. It's fantastic. I'll sport it at the appropriate time.
Appropriate.
All right, coming up on Fox and Friends, we've got acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney on the program. Lots to talk to him about as we enter a week into the shutdown. Former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski, Republican Congressman Louis Gohmert, and Fox Nation host Tomi Lahren. And I'm going to we'll share you a preview of a boot camp that I had to go through along with Griff and Carly Shimkus just to get ready to host New Year's Eve, which is coming up. Watch.
We are doing mic drills, people. You are going to be interviewing machines. 5, 6, 7, 8. You, them, you, them, you, them. You. Jenkins, what is your major malfunction?
My arm's tired. His arm is still not recovered. I don't know if I'm ready, but we'll see. Either way, we'll be there.
I'm curious to see how you fared in this one, Pete, because we all know how you fared in that push-up contest with Adam.
Now you're throwing some serious shade.
If I can make one recommendation,
yes,
wear the shirt. It'll give you extra superpowers.
You know, underneath the jacket.
I love it.
Superpowers. That's all I need.
Thanks, Pete. We'll see you in a couple minutes. We're coming right back.
Bernie Sanders teasing a 2020 White House run and tearing into so-called Wall Street Democrats. In a fundraising letter, the Vermont senator writes, quote, "If I am the best candidate to beat Donald Trump, then I will probably run. That is the truth," end quote. The senator also slamming Wall Street Democrats for their ads criticizing progressive ideas. Sanders writing, quote, "They want us to go back to their failed corporate approach."
And another possible 2020 candidate could be ready to drop some major cash. A political advisor tells the New York Post Michael Bloomberg is prepared to, quote, "spend what's necessary to win" if he decides to run for president. Bloomberg shelled out $110 million in this year's midterms, so we'll see.
Spend it if you got it, Blomey. All right, it was quite the year on the big screen, but only a few movies are considered the best of 2018.
Here with his top 5 movies of the year, Fox News contributor Kevin McCarthy. Good morning. Let's start with number 5.
Good morning to you. Yeah, it's been an incredible year for cinema. I've seen over 120 films this year in theaters, and these are my top 5 favorites. As you mentioned, number 5 is Avengers: Infinity War. This movie absolutely blew me away. You're dealing with the directors, the Russo brothers, who directed Captain America: Civil War, also Winter Soldier, and now they've taken dozens of characters and flawlessly and effortlessly, it seems like, combine them all into one film. You have Josh Brolin playing Thanos. It was an incredible, incredible film. Not just a superhero movie, but also one of the best movies of the year. I loved Avengers: Infinity War.
All right, what about number 4?
All right, I got to go with Roma. Now, this is a movie that's going to be a huge film at the Oscars this year. This is a movie directed by Alfonso Cuarón. Alfonso Cuarón did a little film called Gravity, which with Sandra Bullock. Also, Prisoner of Azkaban, my favorite Harry Potter movie, and also Children of Men. This movie is a very personal story set in the 1970s in Mexico City, and it's a very personal film about his own family and also his own maid growing up. This movie is one of the most powerful and poetic and beautifully shot movies I've seen in years. If you do want to watch it on Netflix, it's available on Netflix now, but I recommend going to a movie theater to see it if you can, because the cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. Just a heads up, it is black and white. It's also subtitled, but it's a very, very amazing film that definitely is worth your time. If you can have patience and sit through it, it's an amazing experience.
All right, let's keep climbing to number 3.
Yes. All right. So this is First Man. I know this movie was a bit controversial, obviously earlier this year, but this is Damien Chazelle, the director who directed La La Land and Whiplash. This movie focuses on Neil, where he completely disappears in this role. Absolutely love A Star Is Born, my number 2 of the year.
Okay, drum roll.
Yes.
Number 1.
I'm very excited about this. All right, so this movie's going to be a little strange for number 1. I went Ready Player One, and I know this is a movie that's directed by Steven Spielberg. This is a movie that focuses on the idea of how we live our lives in a virtual world with our phones and things like that. But in this particular movie itself, you're dealing with a virtual reality world called the Oasis. And these characters dive into the Oasis virtually and kind of get away from the real world. And the movie kind of focuses on that idea of, hey, it's better off to live in the real world, face-to-face communication. But I love this movie. Amazing action. Alan Silvestri did the score. Spielberg directed it. I love this movie. My number 1 movie of the year, Ready Player One. And thank you guys for letting me share this top 5 list. It's been a great year for movies. So.
No, it has. I haven't seen any of them, and I haven't heard enough of them.
Kevin,
so
but
thank
we're
you,
going to
Kevin.
take your word for it.
Happy New Year.
We don't get out a lot.
Yeah, no.
Happy New Year.
It is 6 minutes until the top of the hour. This retiring congressman has high aspirations once he leaves office next month. Why he wants to give marijuana a try, whether his state legalizes it or not.
And this is my favorite story of the day. This mugshot going viral for all the wrong reasons. You'll never guess why. I'll give you a little hint. I'll also give you a little hint. Can you tell how old this guy is?
No.